So the tool is available in that URL, scholar.lifia.r. And we call it, it's a tool to create open literature reviews. Because the idea was also that you could create a literature review there and invite people to work with you. And okay, so and what it does, the idea is that this tool helps you stay focused and be systematic. Helps you combine the search results from the different search engines. So if, for example, it eliminates duplicates automatically. It guides you through the different phases. It first takes you to the phase of, you need to decide whether you will include or exclude this. You mark it, and then the tool remembers what you did. In fact, you do this in collaboration. So if we both are doing this together, each of us has to vote, do we include this one or not? Then, once you decide which are the ones that you will read, you go to the next phase, that is reviewing. And it helps you with a template to take notes in different dimensions, we call it. In fact, one thing that we do a lot when we do a review is, while you're reading articles, you start to find commonalities among them. For example, you're reading and you realize that many of the articles on fake news and trying to stop them, some of them were focused on cases of political elections. Some of them had to do with health issues. Some of them had to do with marketing campaigns. And you see, this structure was not in your questions at the beginning. So one thing that you do is you put tags on the papers. So at the end, the tool provides you a report of how many of your articles had the tag politics, how many of your articles, and help you somehow cluster things that the tool doesn't do. You don't use this tool to make the search. You go to Scopus and make the search there. You export the results, and then you import them in the system. And if you do it again, it will realize that you're doing it again, and will only add the new update. The tool doesn't handle PDFs. At the end, you will need the PDF of the paper. You have to get it somewhere else, and you cannot upload it to the tool. So let's say you have to read 30 PDFs. Okay, you have to keep them somewhere in Google Drive or whatever. And the tool generates a report template using LaTeX, but the writing of the full report, you do it somewhere else. Let's say you import that into Overleaf, and there you create the report. And the tool works like this. I'll show it in live. First thing you do is you ask for a code. So every review has a unique code. If you have that code, you can access and contribute. The system doesn't use username and passwords. Just you go there, you say, I want to start a new review, give me a code. You get the code and you write it down. Sometimes you get an email with the code. It doesn't always work. And you share the code with me and I can access. You enter the system, you write down your plan, your research questions, your inclusion and exclusion criteria. We can edit this in collaboration. Then you go outside and search. Maybe what you wrote down in the plan is the basic search query, but when you go to Scopus, you need to do a specific search query. And then you import those search results into the tool. You do this for all the search databases. Then, once you know, okay, the searches are complete, I will now read all the abstracts and decide, do I include them or not? Do they provide answers to my questions? Do they have the quality? Do they comply with the inclusion criteria? And if we are two, each of us will read all the abstracts and vote. And only if we agree both of us agree that an article should be included, it passes to the next phase, where we will get somewhere, we will get the PDF, we will put it in a shared folder, and maybe we both read it and take notes. While taking notes, we may start, the first time we take notes for the first paper, we create a structure of our note-taking, what is called identify the dimensions. The next article we read, we already inherit the dimensions of the first one. And we also can tag articles. We do this for every article. And at the end, we click and we generate a report that we can export to LaTeX. Okay, that's the intro to the tool, and now I'll go to the tool. If you have an access code, you write it down here. Otherwise, you go to request an access code, and you get this form. Let me see, I've got an example that I will use. I already took notes. So prepare some script because you need to provide your email. In this case, it will be myself, Alejandro.Casco. This is my Gmail address, not my, if you write me email to this address, I also receive it. You need to provide a title. I will now reproduce what we did with Mara in one of the papers. And as notes, I will write this down. Let's see if it doesn't. These are my notes. Sometimes, I mean, when I'm requesting an access code with I have my plan clear. Sometimes you just write something here, just say, oh, this is a review that I will do for my PhD thesis. I'm working with blah, blah, blah. Just some, you can put anything here. Okay, I do submit. And it gives me, it suggests this is the access code. Here it is important, two things, that you write it down or copy it. Let me copy it to, I'll copy it there. And then you say, thanks, I take it. When you say, thanks, I take it, it normally sends you an email. But sometimes it doesn't work. So, but if you said, thanks, I take it, it already works. So now I will paste the access code. And because this access code can be used by anyone, every time you enter, it asks for your email address. Your email address will only be used to sign every change that you make. Every time you do something, it will be signed with your email address. So you can even lie here. So there are 6 tabs that corresponds to 6 phases. The first one is planning. And what you get in planning is basically in the notes what you wrote when you requested the access code. So I will take the inclusion criteria to the corresponding section. Sometimes instead of saying inclusion criteria, you say exclusion criteria. I will exclude any article that is in other language than English. You can combine the 2 ways. Okay, so you have your notes. That could be anything, but it's interesting that your notes state the purpose and the focus of your review, because you will see your notes everywhere in the rest of the process. So that's the first part. So now let's assume that I shared the access code with you, Anthony. So over WhatsApp or whatever, I tell you, I created the review. I also wrote down the plan. If you want, you can just go there and edit. And I think it even works if we edit at the same time. It will tail conflict and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so next thing is we have to search. Now, for searching, I will use Scopus. Let's see if it works here. We didn't have access to Scopus. Let's see if I have. Let's see if I have access to something else. Let's see if I have access to IEEE. It's open. So I will search in IEEE. I will go to the advanced search. I will go to command search because it's the one where I can use the most specific language. I can use or blah, blah, blah. And I wrote, this was IEEE. So this is the search query for IEEE. If I'm not wrong. So I transform the one that I showed in the example to the syntax that this part understands. I think it's okay. No, there was something. There was one extra parenthesis, I think. Okay. So it got 227 conference papers, 82 journals, 23 books, 6 early access, and 6 magazines. So part of our inclusion criteria was that we will only consider from what was it? Let's say 2004 till now. And you have to argue, if you do something like this, you have to argue that, for example, even though if those terms appeared before 2004, they were not talking about the same thing I'm talking here, because the term fake news, with the semantics that I'm using it was only introduced in 2004. And that would be a good argument for a narrowing like this. I can then filter by publication type. For example, I can say only this and this. Because early access articles are, well, these are also reviewed articles. Magazines, they don't have reviews. And I don't see what books are, but I won't read books. So I will only include articles. Okay, so, and to make the search, here I had to combine search query, a search language, with some interaction with the user interface. And once I've done, how many results? I have 305. So I need to export this to import it into Scolr. So if I'm not mistaken, let's see, I want to export in format citations in BibTeX. Citations and abstract. But it doesn't let me export because I need to select items. So if I do this, I select only the 25 in this page. So what I normally do is I go to a maximum and I have to export 3 files, page 1, page 2, page 3. Because I need to export the 305 results. Now I do export. Yeah, I select. Now I can select all. And I do export. You have selected 100 citations for download. Export. Sometimes you get the file. Sometimes you get the results here in the browser. Because there are 100, it may take, is it still loading? export. No, it's not export. Is it possible that the network is just too slow? No, there they are. It just takes a while. Did it finish loading? Let me see.
For this tab, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I close this one. Okay, so now I need to put that into a file because I need to import it. So what I normally do is I don't know, with some editor. Some JavaScript from students. It's file, new text file. There. Control V, Control S. That's IEEE dot bib, IEEE page 1, because I have to do this for all the pages. I won't do it, but if I want to do it correctly, I should do it for all of the pages. And then I go to the upload phase, and I say upload, choose, and then in my desktop I've got IEEE page 1. And this was, I have, every time I upload the data, the result page, I have to say where I got it from, IEEE explore. What was the search query? This was page 100 elements using, because I want it to be reproducible. So the query that I used was this one. I submit, it uploads. It tells me I found 99 articles, not sure why they're not 100. And if any of the articles in this file would be a duplicate of some article that I already uploaded, it will tell me, and I ignored 10 because they were duplicates. So if I upload the same file again, it will not use any articles. I will do the same thing now with ACM, just to show another example. How do I do the advanced search? ACM was like this. Where do I, where was that I put it? Got it. Once I do the search, I think once I do the search, it will let me edit. So I search anywhere, I search anything. The search engines all the time change their user interfaces. So then I go edit search, view query syntax, and somewhere here I can edit. Is it here? Yeah. So the first time you do the search, you do it with the form, but then you copy the query syntax so you can reproduce it. For some reason, it's quite slow today. Still loading. Okay, so while it loads, maybe at the same time I do the search in IEEE, Anthony can be doing the searches with ACM or with Scopus. Sometimes, for example, you work in a university that has access to Scopus that I don't have. Then you do those searches, and I do the ones that my university has access to. Because once we import the results, we have all the abstracts in the system. Did it finish? It found oh, a lot of results. Is it possible that it found so many? So something is not correct with the copy paste that I did, because it's using kind of star and it's getting everything. So I'll forget about this query. I'll proceed as if we had several. If we import several results from several databases, we will see one line in this table for each of them. It tells us how many articles are in that list, in that database that I imported, and how many do I still need to say whether we will use them, we will include it or not. And that is what we do in the filtering phase. In the filtering phase, I get a cloud of tags, because my articles don't have any tags. They all belong to the no tag group. Then they are organized by year, and then I get them all in a list. And what I have to tell is, for each of them, and let's say, Anthony, that we are doing this together, we will have to go to each of them and vote. Do we include this one or not? And we do that by saying here, classify. When we go to classify, at the top of the screen, we see our plan, because we need to read the abstract with this in mind. We need to decide whether to include it or not with this in mind. So I will read the abstract and try to check if it's a paper in an academic journal in computer science that has abstract and keywords, and in these years, and that has information for these questions. And it says, a game-based approach. We present the design and implementation of a serious game in which players have to self-organize in distribution of energy resources, which help provide collective awareness, a prerequisite for collective action. It tells nothing about personalization or adaptation, or I'm not sure why we even got this. By looking at the abstract, it doesn't talk about, maybe one of the keywords is personalization, but by looking at the abstract, I see this article won't talk about the things that we're interested in. So I will just say, I vote for excluding it. Maybe I comment, I don't see that this article has an answer to our questions. And I say here, save my opinion. Or if I already had an opinion, it's replace. The button says save new or replace the old if it's new. So now it has one opinion that says out. I don't see what you voted. And you will not see when you enter the system, you will not see my vote. You have to go in, vote, and then you will see if we both voted out, it's red. If we both voted in, it's green. And if we disagree, it's yellow. And we have to WhatsApp and say, hey, we need to, do we include it or exclude it? And we have to do that for every article. Let's do another a privacy scenario editor. Let's see this one. It says, adaptive mobile learning in the nearby wisdom app. And we are interested in personalization and adaptation with gamification in system that supports collaboration. So it has to have collaboration, adaptation, and games. Okay, it's an article, it's in the years that we want, it has the abstract. Abstract mobile learning is necessary platform in supporting student, blah, blah, blah. The paper tries to illustrate and compare this type of adaptive learning. It talks about adaptive learning. Okay, so in fact, this is another one that I may decide to leave out. But let's say that it matches. I would say include it, and I would say this is the second one that I read that talks about learning. So I will use the tag learning. So it's green. Maybe you vote out, so then it will become yellow, and we have to decide. And now we have one tag, learning. Next time, when I do it with the next one, automatic. You see that many of the results we got are not connected to the questions that I had, but the query was connected to the question. So this is quite common, that the words that you think represent your question, the content for your question, also can be used to talk about other things. Either you improve your search query, or you spend more time filtering. Okay, so let's say we also include this one. Now, one new thing happened is that in the tags block box, now I have the list of tags that are already in use. Because one of the things that you want to do when you're classifying, clustering, is to try to have few groups that are representative. If for every new paper you create a different tag, then it doesn't help you cluster. So that's why it suggests this is not learning, so I wouldn't use that tag. I use a different one. Could be collaborative, or it could be design. Level this is it about design? Oh, the domain, the application domain is not learning. The other thing that you realize at this point is, what are your dimensions for clustering? It's not just any keyword that you choose, because this has to be, at the end, this have to be clusters. So learning in the other one was the application domain. So what I will try to do is, in every one of the papers, I will try to write down as a tag the application domain. With luck, at the end, I have all my 20 articles separated in 3 main domains. And I have a conclusion. Oh, the most frequent domain where gamification and adaptation are used is learning. That's a nice qualitative result of a review, because you're saying, I reviewed all these articles, I answered these questions, but I know something more about this. Most of them were published in 2001 and 2002. Most of them talk about learning. Most of them come from South America. This is a nice map. So I will use the sign. Wrapping up?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, so, and we need to leave the room.
No, we can stay.
Okay. But I will be wrapping up. So there, one that we will exclude, in fact, there shouldn't be no white. There should be either red or green. Only the green go to the next stage. In fact, the white also go there, but there shouldn't be any white. And now it goes, this is the review phase. From the possibly 200-300 we will have here, we will get 50 here. Now we have to use other tool to find the PDFs. We put the PDFs of all these articles in a shared Google Drive. We read them, and each of us will go paper by paper to review. Again, you have the notes. What are you looking for in this paper? Don't read it like you want to learn it. Read it because you want to answer this. And you've got the abstract and the PDF, you have it printed. You're reading the PDF, trying to answer these questions. And what you can do is, here in the review, in general remarks, just provide the answer to these questions. You can do something like this. You can do, you copy the questions, you come here, and you provide answers. You read the paper, and you go writing the answers. That's one way of doing it. The other, more structured way of doing it is you create for each question a new dimension. You say, this is my first dimension of analysis of the article. You go here, add a new dimension. In fact, I will call it article 1. I will do it only with 2. So you still keep the general remarks, notes, but now you have a new dimension. And we do this only for the first article. So I put blah, blah, blee. I put something, this is my review. I don't need to write it here. Maybe I read the paper and I take notes on paper. Then I come here. But this is my template for reading. If after, okay, this is our first paper. So I save my review. So now it says it has been reviewed by myself. If you go with your use with the keyword and your email, and you go there, you will see my review at the end, but you will also see this template. And you have to enter your own output for input for this, your own answers for this. So at the end, with luck, we have for each green paper 2 opinions, 2 of these forms filled with all the answers. We will have some tag cloud also of how were papers organized with the tags. We have a map of tags. We didn't do anything for this. This is automatic. Most of the papers with these keywords were published in the last 2 years. It seems to be a topic that it's gaining traction because there are more papers every year. This is only talking about the ones in the query results, not talking about the one that we included. But the last thing we have is the report. The report, it tries to summarize everything we did. So it does, it takes the notes, it takes the list of people that contributed to this review, it takes the summary of the databases we did. So for example, we have only one search with 100 articles. And then it says, we found during classification, in fact, there should be filtering phase. 99 articles were, of the original 99 articles, only 2 reach agreement for inclusion. This article passed on to the review phase, to the second phase. Included articles were published in the following years. One was 2020, one was 2020. So it already builds this map. And at some point, it also says something about the tags. Now, here, the following tags were present in the reviewed articles. One had design, one had learning. It already, everything that we did in the user interface, it tries to write it down as a text, as a paper. These are the dimensions that that are basically our research questions. And now it generates notes. In this case, these are organized by dimension. So it would have different sections, these sections, subsections. For the dimension 1, it will have all the notes that we took for that dimension. In section 2, it will have all the notes we took for that dimension. And you can export this into Markdown, into HTML, or in fact, you can export it as LaTeX. You take this to Overleaf, and in fact, it generates graphs for the years and for the tag clouds. It imports all the references that you did, so you didn't have to do the citation again. Okay, so things that this tool helps with. It's a one place to store all the results of your searches, and it takes care of updating them when you upload a new version and eliminating duplicates. If you don't do it with this, you have to do it in Excel or in Word or whatever you use, but you have to do it manually. So this one helps with that. Second, it supports 2 or 3 people in it, and people collaborating to decide, do we include them or not? Just by clicking on I include it or not, and already in that process, you can start clustering articles. And clustering is always nice in a review paper because it doesn't only, the review will not only provide answer to the questions, but also provide an overview of how does the literature that you cover looks like. Then it already makes the analysis of how were publications in the different years. And then with that thing of the review dimensions, it helps the reviewers focus on specific things to look for in the papers. And at the end, it summarizes all of that. It provides all of that in a report template that you can continue working with in another tool. Okay, and that's 4 minutes past time. Okay, so maybe we can stop the recording there.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and my proposal is that